lesson this morning can be found on page 867. We're in the Gospel of John, the Holy Gospel, according to the 6th chapter of John. The next day, the crowd had stayed on the other side of the sea, saw that there had been only one boat there. They also saw that Jesus had not gotten into the boat with his disciples, but that his disciples had gone away alone. And then some from Tiberias came near that place where they had eaten the bread after the Lord had given thanks. And so when the crowd saw that neither Jesus nor his disciples were there, they went themselves and got into the boat and went over to Capernaum looking for Jesus. When they found him on the other side of the sea, they said to him, "Rabbi, when did you come here?" Jesus answered them, "Very truly, I tell you, you're looking for me not because you saw signs, but because you ate your fill of the loaves. Do not work for the food that perishes, but for the food that endures for eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. For it is on him that God the Father has set his seal." And then they said to him, "What must we do to perform the works of God?" Jesus answered them, "This is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he has sent." And so they said to him, "Well, what signs are you going to give us then, so that we may see it and believe you? What work are you performing? Our ancestors, they ate manna in the wilderness, as it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat." And Jesus said to them, "Very truly, I tell you, it was not Moses who gave you the bread from heaven, but it is my Father who gives you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is that which comes down from heaven and gives life to the world." And they said to him, "Sir, give us this bread always." And Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Please be seated. Well, you know, it's that time of year for vacations. Probably the worst day back from vacation is the first day back. I got home from vacation yesterday evening. It's a flat tire of the car in the front driveway. There's no air conditioning. What else? But you know, the last 100 miles we were driving up the interstate, I kept having this thought in my mind. Nothing says summer to me than a nice sandwich with tomato, little red onions sliced real thin, sliced green pepper, and cucumbers, little salt and pepper, maybe a little butter, and then you just push that together. That's pretty fun. That's summer right there, especially when that tomato's right out of the garden, yeah? You get that crisp cucumber. There's not too many people who like cucumbers, but man, there's nothing like it. I thought about that for 100 miles yesterday. We got home last night. I thought, well, let's just see what's in the fridge. Pulled open the drawer, the crisper drawer, and there was a cucumber that had been started before we went on vacation. But I don't know if you've ever seen cucumbers. They don't last too long once you cut them. And there was a baggie in there with some kind of... There were cucumber seeds, but I don't know what the rest of it was. We went out to the garden, and they had a couple of little tomatoes, red ones. It was great. They survived the week without us. But the peppers were all shriveled up. They didn't handle the heat too well yet. And so I was a little depressed, a little downtrodden. So at least I'll get a sandwich out of this with some tomatoes. But when you open the bread drawer after a week, yeah, it was a little disappointing. But man, that image stays with me. Fresh tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers, a little bit onion. Jesus had his disciples with him, but he also had a crowd. He had this huge crowd that had come out to listen to him teach. There was 5,000 men and their families. They're gathered with him outside of town. And he taught them all sorts of things. They were enraptured, but they had come to see him because he was the guy who was curing diseases and raising people from the dead and casting out demons. And they wonder, okay, when's the show going to start? It's really interesting what he's telling us, but we're waiting for the main act. And when it came the end of the day, and they were apparently been there all day, and nobody had any food to eat. There weren't vendors out there selling shish kebabs or whatever. He said to his disciples, hey, these people got to eat. What are we going to do about this? The old path. We don't know what are we going to do. There was a boy there who had a couple of loaves of bread and a few dried fish. And Jesus took those and he blessed them and he passed them out. And lo and behold, by the time everybody had their fill, he sent the disciples out to gather the scraps, and they had 12 baskets full of scraps, leftovers. Not only did they feed everybody, they had leftovers. And in John's telling the story, it said that the people there said, this is truly the prophet who is to come. Let's go make him our king. Here's this miracles he's doing. Hey, we need this guy to be our king. He's going to take care of us. So Jesus puts his disciples on a boat to go off back across the lake. He goes up in the mountain to pray for the evening. That's where our story picks up this morning. That the people say, wait a minute. Jesus isn't here, neither the disciples. They didn't see him leave. But they can't find him anywhere. So they hop in some boats themselves and take off after the disciples, looking for Jesus. Now, why do you think they're looking for Jesus? Are they hungry? It's breakfast time. Maybe they're kind of missing the show. Where are the signs? Where are these miracles? Where are these great acts of power? Show us. You know, sometimes the relationship of people to Jesus is sort of like a love relationship. You know how that goes. When you were younger, well, some of you are still young, but when most of us were younger, you had that moment when somebody catches your eye. You know, whether it's because of the way they dressed or the way they smiled, or maybe they were just nice to you, they're good conversationalists, but somehow they got your attention. And you started to focus on them. You started to say, wow, there's something special about that person. Right? And then, as you got to know them a little bit, you kind of got wrapped up in them. You kind of got really interested in who they were and what they did, and you just wanted to be around them more and more. You were infatuated. There was this sense that perhaps being with this person makes me feel better about myself or about things. And so you wanted to be with them all the time just to see what they could do, what they could talk about, how they made you feel. That's a thin line between infatuation and stalking, but that's kind of what we're talking about here. I mean, these people went across the boat looking for Jesus, and when they found him, what did they say to him? Hey, how'd you get here? How'd you get past us? You didn't check out with us. Right? They're trying to control Jesus. They want to know where he is. Why did you leave us, Jesus? Oh, my goodness. Now, we all know that infatuation is a really immature kind of love, right? It doesn't last. Sometimes we act on it when we think we're being very rational and level-headed, but come on, infatuation is just that. Something that washes over us, almost an inebriation of love. But it's all love based on what it does to us. And that's not what Jesus spent that whole time on that mountainside teaching those people before he fed them. Jesus calls people to come to him, not just for the deeds of power, not for those things that make us feel better about our lives, not for those things that help us get over all the hurts and pains and disappointments and struggles in our daily life, because we have them. And those people had them too. And they were legitimate. Not being able to feed someone, having a child that was crippled that you could not care for. Jesus said, I'm about more than that. I need you to trust me. I need you to come and be part of life with me. I need you to abide in me and me in you. Because there's something greater I want to show you. I have to admit, when I was a little bit older when I met Tracy, for those of you who don't know, I was married before and had been divorced. And I had my infatuation phase. I don't know if you had yours for me, but I did. But as you get older, I'm not sure even older, as you become wiser, you become more mature and open to the movement and understandings of your own heart and life. Come to see that kind of superficial, tickle my heart kind of love is sort of like that cucumber in the refrigerator. Yeah, it's fresh and great when it's at first, but it really doesn't last very long. It doesn't sustain you, and probably after a while it starts to look kind of goopy. But you soon discover that there's something more there. Something more substantial, something deeper, something that not just is about me, but about the other person. It's about the relationship. It's about this sense that I can trust and be trusted. I can love and be loved back. I can actually make a difference or mean something significant to someone else, just as they mean that to me. You remember Ron Qualley? He was pastor over at Lord of Life, who just recently retired. He was here back 6 or 7 years ago, 9 years ago. We had our 50th anniversary. You remember that? Those of you here then for the 50th anniversary of Emmanuel. One of the things he said was that congregations in their first 50 years seek to establish themselves, to become planted and rooted and needed in their community. But he said in the second 50 years of a congregation's life, they seek to be significant. They try to understand why they're there and how it makes a difference in the world, why it matters that they've been there. I think that's true for us. We can be in a relationship for a while, but you know what? After a time, it's not just being in the relationship that matters. It's what difference does our life make? What difference does this relationship make? Not just in my life, but in the greater scheme of things. Why is it important? Jesus calls his followers to get into that kind of relationship with him. Not that it's all about just taking care of your woes and your problems, which he comes to do. But to come into a relationship of significance, of essentials, of what it means to endure through all this with a sense of hope and joy, to be fed and to be nourished and to nourish others, to sustain them with the bread that allows you never to be hungry. He calls us together to be His presence in the world. Dietrich Bonhoeffer once said, the church is not an assembly of people who gather together to worship Christ. Rather, it is Christ present in those who assemble to be His presence in the world. Jesus has not taken away His promise to comfort us, to heal us, to touch us, to inspire us. It's just that the people sitting next to you in the pews are Jesus for you. To share your joys and your concerns and your sorrows and your struggles and your frustrations and your doubts. But also to see ourselves as Christ in the world, coming with a significant message. A message that says, you know what? This lasts longer than cucumbers. This lasts forever. This is my body. This bread will feed you forever. This cup is my blood given for you for life. You'll never be thirsty for love and for hope, for joy. It endures. It is significant. When we gather at this table and in this place with our families or with our friends or with strangers who are sitting next to us, we are Jesus in this world. We are Jesus for each other. We are fed with bread that sustains and brings meaning to life. We just have to trust that. That promise that Jesus is the bread of life. Amen.